Hello. Looking at this album here, Korn, Follow the Leader. You can see this copy of it. The case is not in great condition. It's got a big crack across the middle. Little crack there. And this is a double CD. It's not a double album, but it's got a bonus CD, so it's in one of these, hinged, whatever you want to call it, and it's completely almost detached itself. It's hanging on for dear life. One little piece of plastic there, but the rest of it is completely sheared off. But I will say that the dual hub is still holding the CD in place well, so that's something. So I got this second hand. I bought this, and I think I showed it in the video when I bought it at a market, a CD, or was it actually primarily a record, vinyl LP market, and they had some CDs there. And I picked this up for, if I go back and watch it, I'll see the price, but I'm pretty sure it was $3. I'm not 100% on that though, but it certainly is secondhand, as you can tell. Now, I bought this album as a new release when it came out back in 1998. I always had a strange kind of relationship, but at least a strange kind of feeling about Korn. One of my good friends when I was a teenager, he kind of discovered Korn before anyone else, at least in, my little corner of New Zealand. He was talking about Korn and listening to Korn before I'd ever heard of them, and before anyone else was talking about them, before they became kind of the cool band. And he used to play them to me, and I never really thought they were much good. It didn't really appeal to me. It was kind of too detuned, too kind of, I guess, dissonant, and too just, I don't know, a complete lack of melody, I guess, a lot of their songs. And it kind of, back then, it's because this came out in this album came out in 98, but their debut album came out, I believe, in 94. So in 1994, I was very much listening to grunge, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, other kind of alternative rock bands around that time, Blind Melon, Stone Temple Pilots, and then kind of I started getting into Britpop a bit after that, Oasis and Blur. And then slowly as the 90s progressed, I kind of listened to more harder, more, I threw the net out further. But certainly I didn't really appreciate Korn. The first time I saw a Korn song that I liked was the Adidas song, when the video for that came out. So that was on their second album, Life is Peachy, which was, I think it was 1996. I quite like that song. I quite like the atmosphere of it. And then the thing that changed my opinion about Korn was the first single off this album. The first single off this album was track, I believe, 15, is it? Got the Life. Now, the way that this is recorded, or produced, however you say, you can see it's got 25 tracks, but it starts on track 13, because the first 12 tracks are silence. They're kind of 5 to 10 seconds of silence, and it kind of skips through the tracks, and then you get to track 13, and that's, for all intents and purposes, track 1. But I heard the single Got the Life on the radio. This is back when the radio was a thing. I was in my last year at high school. And my last year of high school was quite an eventful year in my life. I guess, any kind of teenager's last kind of that period when you're 17, going on 18, going from being a kid to an adult. Lots of things are changing. Your brain's all over the place, but kind of quite vividly remember that time in my life and the music I was listening to. I had a car. I owned my own car, a 1981 Mitsubishi Mirage. was the same age as I was. And that song was on the radio a lot, and I liked the song. And if you heard that song, which I'm sure you probably have, "Got the Life," it's in some ways it's quite different than their previous work. It's not, guitar doesn't play as big a part. Like in the verse, there's almost no guitars, or the guitars are just kind of doing that kind of like underlying atmosphere, or kind of like buzzy sounds. It's not actually like, like full on chug guitars. And so the verse is just kind of drums and bass almost, and then Jonathan Davis is almost, he's not rapping, but he's singing in a kind of rapping way. I'm not really describing it very well. It's kind of got a hip hop vibe to that song a little bit. I guess the drum beat maybe. But I like the atmosphere of that song. I like the how can I say it? I guess atmosphere is the mood it evoked. And that's kind of seems to be a big thing for me with music, is that sometimes it's not even the song itself. Like when I think about that song, I can't even think really much about it. Like I know what it sounds like in my head, but it was at that time in my life of being a 17-year-old and going through whatever I was going through in my life, normal things that most people go through, and that song just connected with me. And I went from really kind of disliking Korn, thinking, like I said, I like that song Adidas, but the thing that always bothered me about Korn was their bass sound. Fieldy's bass, that kind of clicky, very percussive sounding bass. It just, I don't know. Again, as much as I said the mood or atmosphere moves me to like a song, the mood or atmosphere of a song that maybe in its parts I should like the guitar riff or the drumming or whatever, but there's something about the mood or atmosphere of a song that sometimes it's the opposite. It makes me not like it. And that's how I felt a lot of Korn songs. It kind of evoked a negative mood in me previously, but the new song, Got the Life, was the opposite. And so what I did is I went and bought that album. I bought it new at the time. And as a high school student, I was working part-time at a supermarket. Buying a new CD was a lot of money. It would have been about $30, I would guess. This is $30 back in 1998, which is what, with inflation, I think it's like close to double the value of $30. So it's like $60 in 2024 money. But that's what I spent most of my money on. I spent most of my money on petrol for my car, CDs, and that's basically it. I guess food, when you're out and about, food. But I wasn't like I did drink alcohol, but I wasn't like a huge drinker. And also at that time, the drinking age was 20 in New Zealand. It's changed to 18 now, but it wasn't that easy to buy alcohol. So the alcohol that I did drink was usually friends would give it to me, or I would steal it from my parents or my older brother, or I'd come across it in some other way, but it wasn't like walking into a booze shop and buying a six-pack, because I couldn't. But I think some of my friends had fake IDs, and so maybe they would buy it, I think. But I've never been a huge drinker most of my life. Like I drank socially throughout my youth, but I was never an absolutely massive drinker. So my point is I was spending a lot of money on music. And so I bought the CD, and I remember the shop. I bought it at the Sounds CD shop in Takapuna. Not that this means anything to anyone watching it. In Shore City Mall, in the downstairs. And as was often the case when you bought new releases back then, you'd get a free promotional item with it, like a poster or such. With this particular one, I got a Korn beanie, which has long since disappeared. I wish I still had it. But I got a Korn beanie, and there was something else as well. I have a feeling, I think when I bought Issues, which is like a year or two later, you got a voucher for some Puma shoes. Because remember, they were, for a long time they were associated with Adidas, and I think they made a sponsorship with Adidas. But then they went over to the competitor, and they get signed a sponsorship. When I say sponsorship, it sounds like they're a sports team, but they wore the clothes of this brand, and they were given free clothes, and they went to Puma. And I remember one of them, it was either Follow the Leader or Issues. When you bought it, you got a voucher for a massively discounted pair of Pumas, like 80% off or something crazy like that, I remember. But with this one, I definitely remember getting the beanie. And I remember listening to it, and from the first song, which is It's On, I thought it was a great album. It's On is a great album. Freak on a Leash, obviously, probably their most famous single, I would guess. Quickly trying to go through my head and think of another one that's as famous. Twisted Transistor, is that? Or Come Undone? I don't think they're as big as Freak on a Leash. And Freak on a Leash, the thing is that the video was a big part of it as well. At the time, the effects used in the video were kind of groundbreaking. Now it kind of looks quite dated to the late 90s special effects with a bullet point of view kind of thing. But a great song nonetheless. Got the Life, like I said, it's kind of what attracted me, where up until that point I never really liked the band outside of one or two songs. Dead Bodies Everywhere, it's quite a creepy song even now. It's kind of got this like melody, like a jewelry box, like a wind-up jewelry box. Ding, 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 ding. And then he uses some effect, I think, on his vocals in the chorus. It's quite like a well-done thing. Children of the Korn, I think, is the one he did with, what's his name? Ice Cube. I would skip that song. BBK. I get mixed up between BBK and Reclaim My Place. Now, BBK is the one that starts off saying, what the fuck? What the fuck? That's a great song. Pretty. I think up until this point, one of the sort of most well-rounded written songs they'd done. Again, very kind of, if you listen to the lyrics, quite creepy. And the subject matter is Jonathan Davis worked in the coroner's office in the mortuary. And some of the stories he would recount and talk about. And this particular one was about some awful thing about some kid that came through the mortuary. And I think that's part of the reason why he was so messed up, because he had kind of had post-traumatic syndrome from working around pretty awful stuff. Amongst, I think he had other things when he was a kid as well. But All in the Family, that is the one they did with Fred Durst. That is kind of like a comedy song. I'd skip that. It's like Jonathan Davis and Fred Durst are kind of doing a back and forth rap battle. It's as bad as it sounds. And I'd say that was the first time I was introduced to the vocal stylings of Fred Durst, because up until this point I didn't know who Limp Bizkit were in 1998. $3 Bill You'll come out in 97, I think, but it didn't do anything in New Zealand to the point that I'd heard it. So that was the first time I heard Fred Durst. Reclaim My Place, like I said, that's a great song. Justin, that's got a good intro, I remember. Seed, I've never really kind of felt much of a muchness of that song at all. Camelatosis, that's the one they did a what do you call it, collaboration or whatever, I guess, by the guy from Farside. Farside was that, there it says there, Trey Hardson from Farside. Okay, so we said, got Ice Cube, Fred Durst, Trey Hardson. Farside were one of those 90s Tribe Called Quest style type hip-hop groups. I think they're called conscious hip-hop, non-gangster hip-hop. And I guess their most famous song was Running Away, which is a great song. It's got a good sample, like the piano. But I like that song, Camelatosis. speaking of moods and atmospheres, I think that song really evokes an interesting mood and atmosphere. I don't actually know how they made some of that like it doesn't sound like guitar, bass and drums. Like I guess the thing is with the Korn and guitars, they use so many processing effects on the guitars that sometimes the guitars don't sound like guitars. They can sound like all sorts of things. So, and that last song there was My Gift to You, which is like a 10-minute song, and quite a good song, bit long. There's also a hidden song. They do together with the guy from Cheech and Chong. Is it Cheech or Chong? I'm not sure. Earache My Eye. It might actually say that in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Earache My Eye, written by Tommy Chong, Cheech Marin, and Gay DeLorme. So I don't know if it's Cheech. I still don't know if it's Cheech or Chong who's singing along with them. I think it was Cheech. Anyway, so here we have the lyrics. No, we don't have lyrics. We have liner notes. So there we have the things they're sponsored by. Does it say Puma in there? Maybe this is pre-Puma. Or Cornwear. Oh, it is Puma, look. Can you see that? It's the white against the white doesn't work very well, but it says Puma. God, this is like really a kind of showing how things have changed. They list all their clothes sponsorships. They got Puma, Tribal, GNCO, what's that, Jinko? You know, those huge, massive jeans people used to wear. Grind, DC Shoes, Diesel, Fubu, Fat Farm, Kiki Wear, Dita Eyewear, 26 Red, Karen, Dusenberry 714. It's crazy that they had that many sponsorships, one, but also that they were just kind of, these are the things that, these are the guys that give us free clothes, and we kind of advertise them. And then, so yes, at this time, Korn was Jonathan Davis, vocals, bagpipes, Fieldy on the bass. Fieldy is currently on a hiatus from the band in 2024, as he has been for like the last three years or so. Ra Diaz is playing live with them. There's a lot of conjecture online whether Fieldy's ever going to come back. He's kind of, it's weird, isn't it? I guess not being in a band or a super successful band makes it hard to understand or empathize. But they're at the point in their career where they're almost like a legacy act, and they can go out and play those massive festivals that they have around the US and Europe and kind of get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for doing a few concerts per year, and then put out maybe an album every 3 or 4 years. And they don't really have to go on those huge long tours anymore. I think they still do. I think they were on a tour recently, Korn. I think they did a 30th anniversary for the self-titled album last year. Anyway, my point is they're at the point of their career where they don't have to do that all hard graft of touring, and tour album. And yet this is the time where Fieldy chooses that he just feels he's over the band and he wants a rest from it. It's like, surely that's got to be one of the greatest jobs in the world, where you're still getting paid pretty good money to be basically part-time in a band. Anyway, Monkey on guitars with Head. Head obviously left the band for 10 years or so. Had literally a come to Jesus moment. He was born again and now he's back in the band. David Silveria. He he also took a hiatus, but his hiatus turned into a see you later, don't come back. And that was about 2006. So he's not in the band. And now it's Ray Luzier, I think is the pronunciation, who was kind of like a session drummer. He drummed for, I think, for David Lee Roth and David Lee Roth's band. I think in Steve Vai's band maybe. And he's a highly talented professional drummer. but some people say that David had a more funk feel to his drumming that gave the songs a particular kind of flavor that Ray can't recreate. I don't know if that's true. And I think the band I just would rather not have the drama. And so I think they mesh well with Ray's personality, and they don't want David back in the band. Then we go to the thanks. Remember there was this time, I don't know if they still do that. I don't think it's, I mean, it was like around this era, giving thanks in album liner notes was a big thing. And there'd be like, you can see there, like paragraphs of all these people: my wife, my son, my mum, Andy, Big Brother Bruce, like all these people. Each person gets a turn to do it. And this was another thing. The Korn fan club was a big thing. That kind of grassroots building of a fan base seemed to be a big thing for Korn. And they were also one of the earlier bands adopting the internet as part of the kind of fan experience, I remember. The very kind of first times I used the internet, I remember going to their website. There's Jonathan. And there's the band. Apparently there's a story that you can't see here because his hair's covering it. Monkey did something. I think they were allowed to smash up the room or something, kind of like destroy it before the photo session to kind of give it this, lived-in look, if you want to call it that. And I don't know if he had a baseball bat or something. Something happened with the TV. I don't know if it was that TV in particular, but something ricocheted off and smacked Monkey in the head and gave him this huge goose egg lump on his head before the photos had been taken. So he had to kind of cover it up with his hair so you can't see it. But there they are, looking very 1998. And there's the album artwork, which was done by Todd McFarlane. And Todd McFarlane's a comic book artist and an animator, I guess. Most notable for his work with Spawn. I think he's the creator of the Spawn comic. That again was big in the 90s. There was the movie that was, in my memory, pretty shit. But I think he's done other stuff. He's done other videos, hasn't he? He did the video for Do the Evolution by I was going to say Pink Floyd, Pearl Jam, which is an excellent video, one of my favorite videos, and also Disturbed's cover version of Land of Confusion. He did the video for that as well. Both kind of similar vibe. He's got a very recognizable animation style or comic style, drawing style. So as soon as you see one of his things, automatically or immediately know it's a Todd McFarlane type thing. But both those videos are excellent. And yes, he did the artwork for this and some of the animation in the Freak on the Leash video. So overall, I think it's probably my favorite album by theirs. I'd say this or Issues. I was going to say that after I went, because I love this, I kind of got into this album so much. I kind of became quite obsessed with it there for a while in that period, late 98, that I went back and bought their self-titled album and Life is Peachy, and subsequently really got into them as well. And I kind of came to appreciate them. Still couldn't appreciate them to the degree of this, because they are a lot more kind of raw and dirty sounding. I mean, the guitars are like really dirty sounding and fucking really, again, like so detuned, but still I came to appreciate them. And then like the album after this, I said Issues, which came out about 18 months later, 2 years later. No, it would have been 18, about a year. I think it was late 99. I love that album as well. After that, I kind of lost. I bought Untouchables because I remember when it came out new, I got it very discounted. But after that, I never really stayed that much in touch with Korn, and kind of all that stuff they did post Untouchables. They did about 5 or 6 albums. I didn't really listen to anything. And then they released Nothing with The Nothing in 2019. And that was the first Korn album in close to 20 years that I actually listened to concertedly. And that, again, is an excellent album. Highly recommend it. Don't have a physical copy of it, but I listen to it a lot on Spotify. So yeah. No, I didn't mention the bonus CD. So the bonus CD, okay, this is different. The one that I originally had, because I had another bonus CD, the one I originally had Jingle Balls, which is a Korn cover of Jingle Bells, and some remixes. This looks like it's got 4 remixes of All in the Family, which it's already a pretty horrific song. I can't imagine it needs 4 remixes. But there you go. Also, now I do remember this includes Best of Korn TV. It has some videos on there from Korn TV. Korn TV was their internet show. So you can see some footage of them recording the album and just pissing around in the studio and hanging out. I think they get interviewed by Ron Jeremy at one stage. I remember watching that a lot as well on the family computer. But yeah, it really evokes that feeling of that time in my life, of kind of the late 90s, finishing school, being kind of angry at stuff, but also excited about life. So yeah, Korn, a band that at one point in my life were very important, now not so much, but that I do return to from time to time. Thank you for watching.